Brothers and sisters, here with you is the guardian of ancient secrets, the bearer of the wisdom of Saint Cyprian. Today, we will dive into a topic that many prefer to overlook, but one that can change the course of your spiritual destiny forever. Death, that mysterious portal between worlds, is not just a physical end. It is a complex energetic process where invisible forces remain active long after the last breath leaves the body. And it is precisely in the bed, that intimate place where the soul begins its detachment, that the greatest dangers lurk for the living. Have you ever wondered why, after a loved one passes away, you feel chills when entering their room? Why do mirrors seem to capture fleeting shadows? Why does your pet refuse to enter the room where the death occurred? These are not coincidences. They are warnings from the invisible realm. Saint Cyprian, the magician who mastered the dark arts only to become a protector against them, left us clear teachings. Never, under any circumstances, should you sleep in the bed where someone has died. The consequences can be devastating for your vital energy, physical health, and spiritual balance. You might think it's just a bed, an inanimate object. This is the first mistake many make. Objects are not energetically neutral, especially those where the transition between life and death has occurred. Stay with me until the end of this video. I will reveal not only the dangers you face by ignoring this warning, but also the protective rituals that Saint Cyprian left us to defend against negative influences that may cling to our aura. What you learn today could save not just your peace of mind, but also your spiritual integrity. Let's start by understanding what really happens to the soul when it leaves its physical vessel. According to the teachings of the Great Book of Saint Cyprian, the soul does not instantly detach from the material plane. There is a gradual process of detachment that can last days, even weeks, depending on the attachment the person had to earthly life. During this process, the residual energy of the deceased becomes imprinted on objects with strong emotional connections. The bed, where we spend about a third of our lives, becomes a powerful energy reservoir. It is not simply a piece of furniture, it is an unconscious altar where we deposit dreams, fears, illnesses, and, ultimately, where many take their last breath. Saint Cyprian's Liber Nigrum explains that when the physical body dies, the etheric body is released, an energetic matrix that can remain linked to certain physical objects. This phenomenon is not superstition, but an observable energetic process for those who have developed the right sensitivity. Imagine death as an energetic fingerprint that gets imprinted on matter. The intensity of that fingerprint varies according to the manner of death, natural, violent, unexpected, the emotional state of the deceased, unresolved matters left behind, the energetic connection with surrounding objects. When someone dies in a bed, part of their essence remains anchored in it like an energetic memory seeking to complete its cycle. It is not the whole soul, but energetic fragments that linger in a state of limbo. These fragments, known in ancient texts as astral shells, can interact with the energy of the living, especially during sleep, when our natural defenses are lowered and our etheric body expands beyond physical boundaries. Saint Cyprian warns us in his grimoire, "Where the dead left their last breath, a door between worlds remains open. Whoever rests in that place will be visited by entities that dwell between planes." This is the essential reason why sleeping in the bed of a deceased person is never advisable. It is not groundless fear, but ancestral knowledge validated by centuries of experiences documented by seers, mediums, and practitioners of mystical arts across cultures worldwide. And remember, what I'm revealing to you is not superstition, but esoteric knowledge that has been hidden from the general public precisely to prevent ordinary people from manipulating forces they do not fully understand. Death is not instantaneous in energetic terms. While the heart may stop at a specific moment, the separation between the physical body and the subtle bodies follows a gradual process that modern science is just beginning to glimpse, but that the ancients understood deeply. Saint Cyprian describes 3 phases of separation in his writings. First, the detachment of the etheric body, that energetic envelope that duplicates our physical form. This body remains close to the corpse for about 3 days, creating that presence feeling many experience near the deceased. Second, the release of the astral body, the vehicle of our emotions and desires, which may remain linked to emotionally significant places for the person. Third, the detachment of the mental body, which holds thoughts and memories. The place where the death occurs temporarily becomes an energetic portal, a zone where the veil between dimensions thins. The bed, being the last point of physical contact, is especially impregnated with this transitional energy. It is important to understand that this process creates a disturbance in the energetic matrix of the space. Just as a magnet distorts the magnetic field around it, death creates a distortion in the energetic field of the place. This distortion can interfere with our own energetic field if we expose ourselves to it, especially during sleep, when we are more vulnerable to external influences. It's like trying to tune a radio in an area with strong electromagnetic interference. The signal comes through distorted. There is an old folk belief that says the soul remains in the house for 3 days after death. Many consider it a simple superstition, but Saint Cyprian confirms it in his esoteric texts and provides the spiritual scientific basis behind this tradition. The Codex Spirituum of Saint Cyprian explains that these 3 days precisely correspond to the time it takes for the etheric body to completely dissolve its connections with the physical plane. During this period, the deceased may not even be fully aware of their death, remaining in a state of confusion that the ancients called the limbo of the newly departed. This belief appears in multiple cultures precisely because it responds to an observable energetic reality. In the East, they speak of the bardo, in Nordic traditions of Helheim, and in African ones of the anteroom of the ancestors. Why 3 days specifically? Because it corresponds to natural cycles of energetic transformation. Just as a seed takes time to begin its germination process, just as the moon takes time to significantly change its influence, and just as the physical body takes time to initiate its definitive transformation. These ancient folk beliefs are not inventions, but precise observations of the invisible processes accompanying death, encoded in the form of traditions to preserve knowledge. Now I will reveal the true dangers faced by those who ignore this warning. These are not scare stories, but phenomena documented by Saint Cyprian and other masters of the occult over centuries. The first and most common danger is energy vampirism. The energetic residues of the deceased, especially if the death was traumatic or unexpected, instinctively seek vital energy sources to sustain themselves. When you sleep in the same bed, your energetic field becomes the most accessible source. People who experience this report waking up inexplicably exhausted, as if they hadn't slept at all. The second danger is psychic influences. The residual thoughts of the deceased can infiltrate your subconscious mind during sleep, causing subtle changes in your personality, preferences, aversions, and even decisions. Many relatives have reported adopting habits or thought patterns of the deceased without realizing it. Then there are the recurring disturbing dreams. Not simple nightmares, but vivid experiences where you may find yourself in unknown places or reliving moments from the deceased's life. These are not mere products of your imagination, but real excursions into the astral plane, where the mental residues of the deceased remain active. More concerning are the physical manifestations, inexplicable illnesses, especially affecting the organs that failed in the deceased. The Grimoire of Saint Cyprian documents cases where people developed the same ailments that led to the death of the previous occupant of that bed. Finally, there is the risk of attracting opportunistic entities. Death temporarily creates a door between planes that may allow access to less benevolent entities that will take advantage of this connection to establish a bond with the living. Remember, we're dealing with spiritual laws as real as physical ones. Ignoring them doesn't make them any less effective. It simply leaves you vulnerable to forces that operate beyond ordinary perception. To fully understand the nature of these dangers, we must recognize the symptoms indicating an energetic disturbance caused by sleeping in the bed of a deceased person. Pay close attention to these physical signs. Persistent localized cold even when the room is warm. Unexplained muscle pain, especially in the neck and back. Skin rashes that appear at night and disappear during the day. Shortness of breath or pressure in the chest upon waking. Chronic fatigue that does not improve with rest. On the psychic plane, pay attention to recurring nightmares involving the deceased or unknown places. Constant feeling of being watched, especially at dusk. Intrusive thoughts foreign to your usual personality. Unexplained mood changes, particularly irritability or melancholy. Emotional disconnection from your loved ones. Even pets can perceive these disturbances. If you notice your pets, avoid entering the room. Bark or meow at empty corners. Become restless during the night. Stare intently at specific points in the room. These are not products of your imagination. They are tangible manifestations of imbalances in the energetic field of your environment. Saint Cyprian warns in his manuscripts, spiritual disturbance first speaks through the body, then through the mind, and finally through the soul. Those who ignore the first signs will face increasingly severe consequences. This progression is similar to any physical illness. It begins with mild symptoms that, if ignored, evolve into more serious conditions. The difference is that conventional medicine will not detect these conditions, as its instruments are not calibrated to measure alterations in the subtle energetic field surrounding a human being. For those who have inherited a bed where someone died, or who for some reason must remain in such a space, Saint Cyprian has left us powerful protection rituals. These do not completely eliminate the risk, but establish energetic barriers that minimize negative influences. The fundamental purification ritual requires the following elements: 7 white candles made of pure wax, a handful of coarse sea salt, myrrh and rosemary incense, holy water or water purified during the full moon, a fresh rue branch, an unglazed copper or clay container, charcoal. The procedure should preferably be performed during the waning phase of the moon, ideally on a Tuesday or Saturday between 9 p.m. and midnight. First, preserve the original language of the text, removing any belongings of the deceased. Ventilate the space completely for at least an hour. Then, place the 7 candles in a circle around the bed. Light the charcoal in the container, and when it is glowing, add the incense while reciting. By the power of Saint Cyprian, master of the occult sciences, I command that all energy foreign to the light dissipate. Let what was bound be unbound. Let what remained incomplete find its conclusion far from this space. Walk around the room counterclockwise, ensuring the smoke touches every corner, especially under the bed and inside the closets. Next, take the salt and trace an unbroken line around the bed while saying, I establish this circle of protection that no entity can cross. This salt purifies and seals this space so that only peace may dwell. Finally, sprinkle the water in a cross shape over the bed and pass the rue branch over the mattress, pillows, and frame. This ritual should be repeated for 3 consecutive nights. At the end of the last day, the candles should be allowed to burn completely. Remember that intention is crucial. Perform each step with absolute conviction in its effectiveness. Doubt weakens any energetic work. If after the ritual the feelings of discomfort persist, it will be necessary to consider a more intense procedure, or, ideally, completely replace the furniture and restructure the layout of the room. It is crucial to develop discernment to differentiate between a true energetic disturbance and the effects of our own mind, especially in times of grief when suggestion can be powerful. Saint Cyprian taught that the real presence of residual energies manifests with consistent and objective patterns. These phenomena occur independently of our emotional state, are perceived by multiple people or animals, follow specific temporal patterns, often more intense at twilight or dawn, produce measurable physical effects, temperature changes, characteristic smells. In contrast, psychological projections vary according to our emotional state, are not perceived by others, occur mainly when we actively think about the deceased, lack consistent physical effects. To develop this discernment ability, St. Cyprian recommended the exercise of the impartial observer. Sit in the room in question with a lit white candle and a small mirror placed in front of you. Observe the sensations you experience and note them without judging. Repeat this exercise for 7 consecutive days, always at the same hour. If the sensations are consistent day after day, regardless of your mood, it is likely you are detecting real residual energies. If the sensations fluctuate dramatically or disappear when you are distracted, they are probably projections from your own mind. This discernment is vital as treatment differs significantly. Psychological projections require emotional work and processing of grief, while residual energies need direct energetic intervention through the rituals we are describing. Let me share a documented case from the Cyprianic archive that vividly illustrates the dangers of ignoring these warnings. This is not a scare tale, but a real testimony that should serve as a lesson for us. Maria Elena, a 42-year-old woman from the Veracruz region, inherited her mother's house after her passing from natural causes. For economic and sentimental reasons, she decided to move into the master bedroom where her mother had spent her last days and died peacefully in her sleep. The first nights went by without incident. Maria Elena even found some comfort in sleeping in the same bed. Feeling a connection with her mother. This is a common reaction that many experience, but unfortunately ignores the invisible energetic laws at play. Starting the second week, manifestations began. First, subtle, a familiar aroma of her mother's medicines appearing briefly at dawn. Then, the sensation of sinking on the other side of the mattress, as if someone were sitting there. Maria Elena attributed it to her imagination and the natural grieving process. By the first month, the phenomena intensified. She began having vivid dreams where she saw her mother, not as the loving person she knew, but as a gaunt figure who repeatedly said, "I'm tired, very tired." Upon waking, Maria Elena felt inexplicably exhausted, as if she had run miles during the night. Her physical health began to deteriorate. She developed a persistent cough, precisely the initial symptom her mother had shown before being diagnosed with the terminal illness. Doctors found no physical cause for this cough. She lost weight rapidly, and her skin took on an unusual pallor that several acquaintances commented on with concern. The critical point came 3 months later. One night, Maria Elena woke up feeling a crushing pressure on her chest, as if someone were sitting on her. She couldn't move or scream. In that state of paralysis, she clearly saw a dark figure leaning over her face, with the distorted features of her mother, but with an expression she had never seen on her while alive, a mix of desperation and hunger. When she finally could move, she ran out of the room and never slept there again. That same week, she consulted a specialist in psychic phenomena, who immediately identified what was happening. It was not her mother visiting her, but an energetic shell, a residual imprint that, like an automatic program, sought to feed on the closest and most familiar vital energy. The specialist performed a complete energetic cleansing of the house, following precisely the rituals from the Book of St. Cyprian that I have described to you. After the cleansing, they discovered that in the mattress, hidden among the inner layers, there was a dark stain that was not visible externally. By replacing the bed completely and reorganizing the room, the phenomena ceased. Maria Elena took 6 months to regain her physical health and energetic balance. The cough disappeared, she regained her normal weight, and color returned to her face. However, the experiences left an indelible mark. In her own words, "I never thought the love I felt for my mother could become a channel for something that wasn't her, but a hungry shadow that nearly consumed me." This case perfectly illustrates the progression of symptoms. First subtle sensory manifestations, then disturbing dreams, followed by unexplained physical deterioration, and finally a direct encounter with the energetic entity. It also shows how our emotional bonds can intensify these unwanted connections, and how seemingly innocuous objects, like a mattress, can contain powerful energetic residues. If Maria Elena had known St. Cyprian's teachings from the start, she would have spared herself months of suffering. Her story should serve as a clear warning. The love for our deceased is honored with memories and prayers, not by exposing our vital energy to residues that no longer contain their true essence. When a space has been energetically contaminated by a death, the transformation must be deep and systematic. Superficial cleansings or cosmetic changes are not enough. St. Cyprian teaches that effective transformation operates on 3 levels simultaneously. On the physical level, it is advisable to completely modify the layout of the room. Change the orientation of the bed, rearrange the furniture, paint the walls a different color. This reordering breaks the established energetic patterns that act as memory of the space. On the energetic level, in addition to the cleansing ritual already described, establish new positive vibrations. This can be achieved through sacred music played for 9 consecutive days, quartz crystals programmed with specific intentions in the 4 corners, daily mantras or prayers for 40 days, ideally at dawn. On the symbolic level, introduce new elements that represent life and renewal. Indoor plants with purifying properties like aloe or bamboo, protective symbols from your spiritual tradition, or small moving water fountains. Remember that transformation is not instantaneous. Ancient texts from St. Cyprian indicate that a space requires a minimum of 49 days to completely reconfigure its energetic matrix after a properly performed intervention. The purification practices we find in the Black Book of St. Cyprian have roots that extend to millennia-old traditions. They were not invented whimsically, but represent distilled knowledge through generations of observation and experience. The fundamental ritual for purifying spaces where a death has occurred includes 3 essential phases, each directed at a different aspect of energetic contamination. The dissipation phase, aimed at fragmenting and dispersing dense residual energies. For this, the ancients used fumigations with specific plants: rue, to break energetic ties; rosemary, to elevate the vibration of the space; white copal, for the transmutation of heavy energies; sage, for protective sealing. The extraction phase, which removes specific energetic residues, is carried out through sweeping with blessed palm brooms, applying sacred vinegar at the thresholds, placing black salt in containers under the bed for 3 nights. The sealing phase, which closes energetic channels and establishes permanent protections. Drawing protective symbols with myrrh oil on doors and windows. Placing talismans made during the new moon. Reciting the 7 seals of St. Cyprian in the 4 corners of the room. These practices are not superstitions, but sophisticated energetic technologies. Each element has specific vibrational properties that interact with the subtle energies of the environment. Ancient manuscripts warn, whoever performs the purification must be in a state of internal balance. The impurities of the operator contaminate the ritual. This means that before purifying a space, you must prepare yourself through light fasting, abstinence, and meditation for at least 24 hours prior. These practices have survived millennia precisely because their effectiveness has been proven time and again by those who understand the invisible laws governing our energetic reality. The protective arsenal that Saint Cyprian compiled in his treatises includes specific natural elements with unique energetic properties. These do not operate by superstition, but by their intrinsic vibrations that counteract negative energies. Fundamental protective herbs. Basil, Ocimum basilicum, considered the plant of kings for its ability to elevate the vibration of any space. Place fresh bunches in the four corners of the room, renewing them every 3 days. Its volatile aroma disperses dense energies. Rue, Ruta graveolens, the most powerful for breaking unwanted energetic ties. Its effectiveness increases when sprayed with pure alcohol and passed around the perimeter of the bed. Caution, handling it requires gloves, as it can irritate the skin. Rosemary, Rosmarinus officinellus, a spiritual enhancer that restores weakened energetic fields. It is used in smudgings or by placing fresh branches under the pillow. Traditionally, it is blessed before use by reciting Psalm 91. Elder, Sambucus nigra, considered a guardian tree, its dried flowers scattered around the room establish a barrier against wandering entities. Nordic traditions regarded it as sacred to Freya, protector of domestic spaces. Protective mineral elements. Black salt absorbs negative energies. Placed in clay containers under the bed for 9 nights and then discarded in natural running water. Sulfur, an intense purifier that neutralizes persistent presences. It is used with extreme caution, never near people with respiratory conditions. Wrought iron, small handmade wrought iron objects, not industrial, placed in the corners, establish an energetic perimeter that entities cannot cross. Smoky quartz, a transmuting crystal that absorbs and transforms heavy energies. It is programmed under the waning moon and placed near the headboard. The correct combination of these elements, according to the proportions indicated in the Essential Grimoire, produces a comprehensive energetic shield that acts simultaneously on multiple vibrational frequencies. Remember that these elements should be acquired with clear intention and, preferably, not used for other purposes. Exclusive dedication increases their potency and effectiveness. Beyond energetic purification, there is a fundamental need for complete transformation of the space. A common mistake is to limit oneself to cleaning without transforming. Saint Cyprian teaches, what does not transform returns to its previous state. This energetic law implies that every space has a vibrational memory that tends to revert to its previous configuration if a new energetic pattern is not actively established. This transformation must include complete change in the function of the space, if possible, introduction of new elements that were never present before, establishment of regular positive rituals in the place, conscious creation of new emotional memories in the space. Transformation is not just aesthetic or energetic, but also symbolic. The space must forget its previous history and learn a new purpose. In extreme cases where the energetic load is too intense, Saint Cyprian's manuscripts even recommend structural modifications, opening new windows, changing door locations, or altering the physical layout of the space. The treatment of the bed and other personal belongings of the deceased must follow specific protocols according to the Compendium Cyprianicum, depending on the type of bond with the deceased and the circumstances of their passing. For the bed where the death occurred, there are 3 hierarchical options. The optimal option is complete removal. The mattress, in particular, should be disposed of entirely. If you decide to get rid of it, never donate or give it away, as you would only transfer the problem to someone else. The wooden frame may be kept only if subjected to the 7 flames ritual, which involves purification with symbolic fire and reconsecration. If for economic reasons removal is not possible, the second option is complete transformation. This requires changing all the fabrics, mattress, sheets, pillowcases, sanding the frame completely to remove all previous paint or varnish, repainting with vibrant colors that contain protective components, adding a few drops of rue essence to the varnish, reconfiguring the orientation. The headboard must point in the opposite direction to the original. The third option, only recommended when the previous ones are impossible, is intense purification. This requires a 7-day consecutive ritual where the furniture must be exposed to the 4 elements: air, continuous ventilation and smudging with white sage; fire, black banishment candles and white purification candles; water, sprinkling with water from 7 different sources mixed with rue; earth, temporarily burying small iron objects in the 4 corners of the mattress. Regarding personal belongings, St. Cyprian establishes categories according to their degree of connection with the vital energy of the deceased. Objects of maximum load, underwear, brushes with hair, personal hygiene items, must be completely eliminated, preferably by ritual fire. Objects of medium load, outer clothing, shoes, daily use items, can be purified by exposure to the light of the full moon for 3 consecutive nights, along with rosemary and lavender smudgings. Objects of minimal load, books, decorations, secondary furniture, require only cleansings with sacred vinegar and exposure to sunlight for 7 hours. Remember that intention during these procedures is as important as the procedures themselves. Each action must be performed with respect, gratitude, and a firm purpose of release. The ancient Cyprianic manuscripts establish minimum periods that must be respected before reusing spaces where a death has occurred. These times are not arbitrary, but correspond to natural energetic cycles. For a natural and peaceful death, a minimum of 49 days, 7 cycles of 7 days, before another person can sleep in the room. 90 complete days before a direct family member can occupy the space. 1 full solar year if it is a child under 7 years old. For violent or unexpected deaths, a minimum of 6 months, ideally a full year. If there was suicide, the period extends to 3 years. In cases of murder, some places should never be reused as bedrooms. Essential precautions during these periods: keep the room ventilated and with daily natural light. Perform weekly energetic cleansings with salt and protective herbs. Avoid allowing children, pregnant women, or sick individuals to enter the space. Do not store food or plants in the room. Keep some form of light on during the nights. Ignoring these waiting periods has resulted in numerous documented cases of negative energetic transfer, intensified residual manifestations, and impacts on the physical and mental health of those who occupy these spaces prematurely. The protection rituals compiled by St. Cyprian are not simple superstitions, but precise energetic technologies that establish specific vibrational fields. These act as shields that prevent interaction between negative energetic residues and our own vital fields. The Cyprianic shield ritual is particularly effective for protecting bedrooms and should be performed after the initial purifications. It requires 4 pure beeswax white candles, 1 central black candle, blessed olive oil with specific prayers, frankincense and myrrh incense, a container with spring or rainwater, 7 small iron nails, an image or symbol of protection according to your spiritual tradition. The procedure should begin exactly at sunset. Trace an imaginary circle around the bed. Place the 4 white candles at the cardinal points of the circle. The black candle goes in the center under the bed. First, light the black candle while reciting. Let what was darkness be transformed into light. By the power of Saint Cyprian, Master of Mysteries, all negativity present here is consumed and transformed. Light the white candles in a clockwise direction, starting from the east. Reciting for each one, let the sacred light establish an impenetrable wall. Let no energy that does not vibrate in love pass this boundary. With the blessed oil, trace a cross on each wall of the room, on the ceiling, and on the floor under the bed. Place the 7 nails forming a 7-pointed star under the mattress. Burn the incense while walking around the room, allowing the smoke to touch every corner while reciting the invocation of the 7 seals of protection 7 times. Finally, sprinkle the water in a cross shape over the bed. The white candles should be allowed to burn completely. The black candle is extinguished after 1 hour and discarded outside the house. This ritual establishes 4 layers of protection: a physical energetic barrier, the iron nails; an elevated vibrational field, the incense and prayers; an energetic seal, the oil crosses; a shield of light, the candles and their corresponding invocations. To maintain this protection active, it should be renewed at every new moon through a simplified version of the ritual that includes only incense and a white candle. The manuscripts warn, protection is not permanent without attention. Just as a plant requires water, the energetic shield requires conscious renewal. It's vital to recognize the signs indicating that you or a family member are being affected by spiritual disturbances related to sleeping in the bed of a deceased person. Early detection allows for timely intervention before the effects deepen. Physical manifestations to pay attention to: unexplained marks on the skin appearing during sleep, especially in the form of 3 parallel lines. Consistently waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. for no apparent reason. Feeling pressure on the chest or difficulty breathing when lying down. Abnormally low body temperature in the mornings. Chronic fatigue that does not improve with rest. Emotional and mental indicators: sudden changes in personality or behavior. Recurring dreams where the deceased appears in disturbing contexts. Sudden obsession with themes or activities that interested the deceased. Unexplained aversion to religious symbols or elements of spiritual protection. States of confusion upon waking, as if you were in another place or were another person. Signs in the environment. Objects changing position without logical explanation. Characteristic smells associated with the deceased that appear and disappear. Abnormal behavior of pets, especially fixation on empty spots. Recurring electrical failures. Preserve the original language of the text. Persistent feeling of being watched while you sleep. Cyprianic texts warn that these manifestations often follow a pattern of gradual intensification. What begins as subtle sensations can evolve into complete disturbing experiences if not adequately addressed. If you consistently experience 3 or more of these symptoms, you should immediately implement protection rituals and consider temporarily leaving the space. For those who have already slept in the bed of a deceased person and are experiencing the symptoms described above, Saint Cyprian offers specific emergency rituals to cut unwanted energetic ties. These are intense procedures that must be performed with total conviction. The ritual of cutting astral threads is particularly effective and should preferably be performed during the waning moon. Necessary elements: a black candle and a white one, new scissors that have not been used, Red cotton thread. An item of clothing you wore while sleeping in the affected bed. Coarse sea salt. A container with purified water. Sandalwood or Palo Santo incense. Procedure. Bathe completely before the ritual, ideally with water to which you've added 7 handfuls of sea salt. Wear clean and preferably white clothing for the ritual. Form a circle with salt around the area where you will perform the procedure. Light both candles and the incense. Take the red thread and gently tie it around your left wrist. Extend the thread and clearly state, "I recognize the unwanted connection that has been established. I now visualize this energetic bond materialized in this thread. All invisible ties, all etheric attachments. All harmful connections are represented in it." Take the scissors in your right hand and before cutting the thread, declare, "By the power of my free will, by the authority I have over my energetic field, I cut and permanently dissolve all harmful ties. May my essence remain free and protected." Cut the thread into 7 pieces and place them along with the worn item in a container. Add the remaining salt over these elements while declaring, "I neutralize and dissolve all foreign energy. I reclaim my complete energetic integrity." The black candle should burn completely. The remnants of the ritual should be buried far from your home or thrown in running water. This ritual should be complemented with a personal energetic cleansing for 7 consecutive days, using baths with protective herbs, rosemary, rue, and basil, and specific prayers at dawn and dusk. In extreme cases where symptoms persist after the ritual, it is advisable to seek help from an experienced practitioner who can carry out a deeper intervention. Before concluding this sacred knowledge, let us perform a protection ritual together for all who are listening. Take a moment and follow these instructions with sincere intention. Place your right hand on your heart and your left on your solar plexus. Take 3 deep breaths while visualizing a bright golden light forming between your hands, gradually expanding to envelop your entire body. Now, mentally or quietly, repeat after me. I invoke the protection of Saint Cyprian, Master of Sacred Mysteries. May my energetic field be sealed against all negative influence. May my vital space be inviolable to foreign energies. May my sleep be peaceful and my awakening be full. I recognize myself as the sole owner of my vital essence. Visualize this protective light expanding to fill the room you are in, creating an impenetrable shield around you. Brothers and sisters, the knowledge you have received today is not meant to instill fear, but to empower you with ancestral wisdom that has been hidden from the masses. Energetic laws operate independently of our belief in them, just as gravity acts equally on everyone. If this knowledge has resonated within you, if you have experienced any of the situations described or know someone facing these challenges, I invite you to write in the comments, "Protect me from negative energies," and we will connect energetically to strengthen your protection. Subscribe to the channel to receive more revelations of the hidden knowledge that we all deserve to know for our spiritual protection. In future videos, we will unveil other secrets from the Great Book of Saint Cyprian regarding home protection, personal energetic cleansing, and recognition of negative entities. May the light of wisdom always illuminate your path, and may your energetic field remain strong and inviolable.